For anyone who has not seen this show before, how this generally works is that the guest recommends me a movie, I recommend the guests a movie, and we discuss. So, in this case, as you've already gathered from the title, we'll be talking about The Dirties, Alan Partridge, and Jack and Jill. So I guess Jack and Jill's up first then. Since
we can start with the best one first. I mean, I think that's...
So what was the best one? Alan Partridge? I thought that was a hilarious movie.
Well, God, okay. I mean, I guess we could start with the legitimate best one,
I think we need to, like, move up in the scale of, like, quality to end on the most disturbing, which somehow is still Jacob's pick, even though it's like we're talking about like one of the most horrifying movies I've ever seen with Jack and Jill, and then Jacob was once again snatching his own crown. Again.
Well, it was so funny because Brennan and I made our picks, and Jacob, you were like, "Oh, so I guess this is just the Punish Jacob week on my own show," and then you come through with a film I
truly punishing.
I wish I had known about it sooner, so I could have reported you sooner. Jacob, it's your show. Where do you want to start?
All right, let's start with to honor that amazing segue. Let's start off with Rob's pick, Jack and Jill.
Okay. I had never seen this film. Okay, I picked it,
which is not really how the show is supposed to work.
I understand. I picked it because I was like, as always, I view this as like, oh, I get to force people to watch a movie of my choice. So
Jesus
I was
Christ.
I was making picks between 3 movies, and it came down to like, I had forced Brennan to watch Interstellar this week, and he hated it. And I was like, I could make Brennan watch Interstellar.
That's still that's the Nolan movie. You should have gone with that because that's the one of the few Nolan movies I still haven't seen.
You haven't done. Okay, well, you can do that with someone else.
I hated Interstellar, like top to bottom, pretty much, with a few things that were shining moments. I still cried at the end. So when the credits rolled, I was still sobbing pretty much.
But probably like, not for the reason that the film intended.
Yeah. I'm just like not well.
Well, I'm like, personally, I'm so broken as a person that I only cry to movies anymore. So it's like, any movie that gets me to cry is a huge winner in my book.
Cry or come, that's an A+ in my book.
But I picked Jack and Jill, and I gotta tell you, I didn't realize I was picking like a time capsule of pre-Me Too actors. Because we got Johnny Depp, we got Jared from Subway,
which monstrous. I want to talk about that. Rob and I had a good bit about that, but also you can continue. I don't know that this necessarily counts as a predator, just a person I don't like very much, but a pre-transition Bruce Jenner.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
Well, okay. And this is also either around the time or before he murdered people with his car.
I think that happened like way more recently towards the transition.
Yeah, this is 2011.
We had Al Pacino making fun of dementia in like the weirdest role of his career.
Al Pacino like purposefully like not really making himself look great. Like kind of like making himself like playing himself in a movie and kind of like, seeming like a predator a little bit.
Jacob, Brennan and I talked about this because throughout our history together, we've known each other a while. We realized that I said this. I think the only comedy I've ever watched with you was Kevin Smith's Tusk. That is the most comedic film I've ever seen with you.
And you stormed out of the theater, if I remember correctly.
And I stormed out of the theater like an angry white woman who just saw a bunch of black kids playing in her neighborhood. I guess, I'm excited to see, what did you think about Jack and Jill? Because Brennan and I loved it, I think, for the most part.
I didn't love it necessarily all the way through for the reasons the movie intended. It was just a truly bizarre and like insane kind of thing to behold.
Exactly.
All right,
There were some like legitimately funny moments, but
that
for me,
that little snippet that you just said right there, just copy and paste that. That's pretty much my thought. If I laughed at the movie, it was not for the reasons that they necessarily intended.
But that's the weird thing about Adam Sandler movies, where like more and more it's like, I can't remember the last Adam Sandler movie where I was laughing with the writers and the actors and not laughing at them, you know? Like,
yeah, I completely
maybe
agree with
Longest Yard, but that's a long yard.
There's a shot of Jack like biting into a ham in a wig. It's really good.
Well,
that's like okay, so that's like, if you could just copy and paste that Shaquille O'Neal advertisement and you like dropped it into something like Tim and Eric or the Eric Andre Show as like and now a word from our sponsor, that wouldn't be out of place at all, and I'd be like, this is genius avant-garde comedy. But you put fucking Nick Swartzen and Adam Sandler being like, what's this? Why has he got a George Washington wig on his head? And it's like, and I'm like,
Swartzen was
what the fuck?
Fucking hilarious. Yeah. The whole atheist bit.
Very funny. Well, and this movie was also one of, if not the last movie he did before he went to the Netflix deal that he's been trapped in.
It's like truly untethered studio comedy money.
And it's like he's at the height of his cameo powers, where he can just call anyone in Hollywood and get them in his movie, but also
so much animal CGI.
CGI, and it's this thing Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider and David Spade do in their movies, where it's like they're this successful like entertainment type who's like at the height of their career that the high school friends are jealous of, and I don't know what Adam Sandler is like missing in his real life that he has to pretend to be a successful ad director. I don't get it. Like I don't know why that's the movie.
It's like you said, it's a lot of Happy Madison films.
The Dunkadino thing.
What did you say, Jacob? I'm sorry.
It's a lot of that. That kind of is the Happy Madison formula, where it's like, let's take this like person who had their like heyday back in like the 90s, early 2000s, and let's make them like let's pretend that they're still just as relevant and just as funny as they were back then, in this like you had said, with like let's make them this successful mogul or this successful like advertising person, and he's just like, he just happens to be really snarky and funny on top of it, and it's just like,
in Grown Ups he is like a super successful movie executive.
Exactly.
And his friends are like mechanics.
And like Click, his like boss is like David Hasselhoff, but he's like working on some like crazy architecture shit.
Yeah, he's always rich. Well, he's always in these very rich white-collar positions of power for some reason.
I'm surprised he doesn't just do the movie where he gets to dress the way he normally dresses, which is just like the big basketball shorts and a t-shirt.
Exactly. I'm surprised he doesn't just become a Hollywood executive, because it seems like that's what he really wants to do, and Hollywood executives keep being like, no, we'll just play us.
You're still funny. You're still marketable.
You're so marketable, like, for some reason.
Just as an aside, I'm looking at the Wikipedia for Jack and Jill, and I saw that Dean Cundy was the cinematographer, and that makes me very sad.
Cundy, dude. Yes. Dean Cundy with the Cundy flair. Oh my god, dude. He's great.
I knew there was something about that movie's angles.
Exactly. Yeah, the compelling,
you know what?
Amazing angles.
Some people say that they don't notice about the movie. Yeah, the camera angles.
Yeah, people are shocked when I say this.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god. That actually depresses me to see his name like next to this title.
It's like,
what else he does a lot of John Carpenter stuff. What else has he done?
He's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He nominated for an Academy Award on that. He's insane. Like, he's not quite Roger Deakins level, but he's been around. Let's see. He did The Thing, Escape from New York. Yeah, so a lot of John Carpenter. Okay. Big Trouble in Little China, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future.
And And how many of Bryan Singer's pool parties has he been to? Because that's like really the metric for success in Hollywood.
Truly, yeah. What's your body count?
Kevin Spacey's in all of them, so he's like, to my knowledge, the most successful Hollywood actor of all time.
Jesus.
Jesus.
I really that you just reminded me of something. I forget who had said it, but I was watching it was a podcast or like some like vlog or something where people were talking about the Oscars, and people were saying, "Hey, do you think that Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein are going to get a little in memoriam bit when they die?"
Oh man. Well, I mean,
we'll see. I wouldn't doubt it, to be honest with you.
Well, it's gonna depend, like, how long. Because, like, if Harvey Weinstein dies this year, which is, like...
Which, I mean, judging by the pictures of him at the trial, I'm surprised he's not dead already.
If you're going by those pictures, you got to look at the ones where
We've all faked sick before.
Well, I was going to say, like, where he gets out of the courtroom and he's, like, back to grabbing women by the pussy. I don't understand.
That wasn't his thing.
That was his thing.
No, that's the president.
They're the same person.
Oh, shit. Hey, that's the president. That's our president who grabbed him. Hey, you're talking about our president who grabbed him by the pussy. How dare you?
Have some respect.
Have some respect for my pussy grabbing president. Come on now.
Jesus Christ.
Come on now. Knock that off, you fucking. You don't like grabbing pussy?
You know what? Here, Jacob, here's a better take. I hope they both get in memoriams this year. I hope they just give them in memoriams this year, even though they're both alive and kicking.
My stance is they should get an in memoriam. They should have gotten the in memoriams the year they finally got caught. That would have been amazing.
Well, I mean, in that case,
if some rogue editor just
Piven
snuck in a flash frame of Kevin Spacey a la Tyler Durden at the in memoriam section, that would have been amazing.
I think the best move is to like put up the in memoriam and then set the date as like the next year. Just to really fuck with them, where they're like, "Oh fuck, I now know when I'm going to die."
Yeah, am I going to get suicided by Hollywood? Well, no. Here's my actual take on Kevin Spacey, and I said this like a year ago on one of my many failed radio shows. Which, by the way, congratulations, you haven't failed yet, Jacob.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I have to imagine there's a bunch of Hollywood people who every day are like reminding Kevin Spacey, it's like we're just waiting for the moment we can rehire you.
No.
I know, like, I don't think he's a good guy, but we know the way Hollywood works. Jeremy Piven is back to work, okay? Like, it's Kevin Spacey, like, Academy Award winner, is absolutely still on the roster.
All I'm gonna say about this is that Kevin Spacey needs to come back down to earth.
Fuck you.
And he's a fucking awful monster psychopath who should be put to death
for killing people.
Jesus Christ.
I'm surprised Kevin Spacey wasn't in Jack and Jill.
Let's get back to Jack and Jill.
Get back to Jack and Jill, yeah. Speaking of...
So, you know what I do want to say about that movie? The most heartening part is just the actual twins in the like opening and ending montage.
Yeah, that is like
that was the closest I ever got to feeling a genuine emotion that the film intended me to feel in that entire movie.
Good about the fact that you rented it for $5 off of Amazon.
Like you didn't laugh at like some of just the throwaway jokes, like just on the base level, Jacob. Like
there were a few. I got a few giggles out of it. Got a few giggles out of me, but not like nothing more than like the I'm gonna breathe out of my nose to be like, okay, that. Okay. Well played.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I truly like found myself like breathing a sigh of relief in scenes where neither Adam Sandler character was in the scene. Where I was like, oh, okay.
Oh well.
And it's like I can take the regular Adam Sandler too, the guy Adam Sandler. It's like the girl for me where I'm like, this is just like, well, it's because the character is meant to be so grating and annoying that I'm like,
here's the thing.
It's working.
Here's the thing.
You're doing a great job.
As are many of Adam Sandler's like comedic side characters. Their main thing is I'm going to do the most grating and irritating voice as possible.
I got to the point where I was like, I can only tolerate Jill. I fucking hated male Adam Sandler in this movie.
Why?
More than anything. Get him out of there. Get Adam Sandler as a man out of there.
Oh, it's just female ad exec.
Exactly. Exactly.
Here's the thing: is that it's funny you mentioned that, because when we get to the scene, spoiler alert, when male Adam Sandler has to dress up as his sister to go seduce Al Pacino.
He's a bad guy.
That's so. There's a lot of very morally gray shit in this movie.
But what I was going to say was, I was sincerely hoping, and I my opinion would have like just gone through the. It was below ground floor level when we're at that point in the movie, and it was going to skyrocket if we had pulled a twist where it had turned out that Jill had died in the womb and was a fever dream by male Adam Sandler the entire time.
In the same shot, that would have been, even though other characters have talked to Jill, that would have been really good, actually.
Speaking of seeing them in the same shot, I know it's like the way these things look when you're doing this type of movie where the actor's playing and multiple people and you want to do it in the same shot. But I fucking hate that shit. I don't like it because my eyes the entire time are like, and there's the part where the screen breaks, and that's the part where he's standing over there. And then when they're doing the over the shoulder shots, I'm like, and that's a different actor right there. And it just fucking I don't know, my brain can't relax when that's going on.
I don't even the same way.
I think you guys have let your imaginations die. And I think that...
I disagree. I like cooking up plans for Jack and Jill, too.
I think that Jack in this film is a bad person. He's an evil character. He's using his sister to defraud a dementia-out old man. I mean, Can
we talk about the grandmom?
The Hispanic grandmother who,
I hated that. It was revolting.
For some reason was standing directly underneath the piñata.
Yeah.
As you do.
It was one down.
Did you find her ugly to look at? Jacob, did you find that character hideous? Because maybe once again, I've been so high all the time recently. But when I was watching this yesterday with Rob, I was screaming because every time it cut back to her, I was stop doing this.
Yeah,
I'm trying to eat food, but what did you? It was repulsive, right?
I love that they were bringing her back to life.
Jalapenos.
Chili peppers into her
What
face.
the fuck is that? So ugly to look. I was this is crazy.
Okay. I mean, aside from classic comedy, where does Jared from Subway fit into your opinion about the movie?
All right, so I will say that he did give me the second hardest laugh that I had in that entire film when they have the birthday scene, and he just screams, "I want to eat some fucking cake," right into the camera. That caught me off guard and made me laugh.
So it got us pretty good too, and I think part of it was I was doing this bit where because Jared kept saying about his new diet and
I'm hungry, I'm starving,
and I would just keep ending the sentence with 4 kids. And so,
I'm fucking hungry, 4 children.
So and that scene where he just goes I want to eat that cake or whatever. I was just I want to eat that kid, and it was just very terrifying. He's a monster.
Well, that scene was mirrored. That energy was mirrored with Nick Swartzen being accosted for being an atheist.
That was very funny.
Yeah.
That was,
to the point of
this guy doesn't
violence.
Believe in God.
To the point where they were actively cheering for him to be beaten up. That kind of threw me.
So funny.
That really threw me for a loop when that started happening. I was like, please let there be a fight. I need to see how this resolves itself.
Well, do you guys remember what Jill's reasoning? Because Jill says some wild shit where it's how could God not exist if
the Grand Canyon is real? or something like that.
This movie haunted Jacob.
Yes.
I sent
Rob a message where I was like, I'd gone 9 years without seeing Jack and Jill. And thank you so much for letting me cross that off my bucket list.
I was fearful that we were exposing you to your first comedy of all time, and this was what it was.
I think this movie was like traumatic for Jacob, whereas like Rob and I it just like washed over us, and like
it was relieving.
It was a wild acid trip. I asked Rob who slipped me acid because I was curious what the fuck I was watching and what was happening.
And a movie like that is relieving for me because it's like, oh, I as a person don't have to aspire to anything because this is what success looks like.
Exactly. That's okay. When you put it like that, I can get behind that.
Thank you.
That motivation. But yes, I was not a fan. There's only ever been one other movie on the podcast so far where I've just said, look, I just didn't like this. I'm sorry. I usually try and find the good in most of the recommendations, even if it's something I didn't really enjoy. But
what was it? What was that one?
The other one was Uwe Boll's Postal back in episode 11.
Oh, I don't think I've seen Postal. I've seen Rampage.
Rampage? No. Rampage I would say it's not great, but it's the closest thing he has to a good movie. Everything else is just unwatchable
that's like the mass
shit.
Shooting movie, right?
Yeah, that's also a mass shooting movie. Funny enough,
Jacob, that movie.
Funny enough,
that movie like made me like sick to like my stomach. I remember like a kid we grew up with just like putting that on casually one day after school on Netflix and like just being like
Rampage or Postal.
Rampage, the movie where the dude just whatever the movie is, it's the Uwe Boll movie where the guy just like gets up in a bunch of plated armor and does a bunch of shootings.
Yeah, that's Rampage. Yeah,
I hate that shit. I hate stuff that glorifies it. I felt like the movie was glorifying that shit.
I think that Rampage is fucking lame. Rampage 2 fucking lamer. Like not even as
here. Let me just say I'm not by all means.
I just think they're bad movies. I'm not saying that like mass shootings are lame because they aren't. We all know that. Right. I'm saying that those are just bad movies that people look to and they're like, oh, like this is a really good like indie. No, dude, it's a really shit movie made on like a bad Sony camera.
My point is that it's like when you compare it to each steaming pile of shit that has come before it, this is a slightly less large pile of shit is Rampage.
It's a little bit more competently made.
Okay. Right, it's more competently made. You can watch it and you can say, okay, I didn't hate that. Like that's the best I can say about Rampage.
I don't even need to like go into Rampage too much or whatever because like I really don't want to give that movie too much time of day. But it was just like
I don't want to give Uwe Boll too much time of day.
No,
period.
Well, he might challenge us to a fight. Didn't he do that? Didn't he challenge somebody to a fight?
Yeah, no. There's it's called Raging Bull, and it's like an hour-long documentary of him beating the shit out of like critics from Ain't It Cool News and. Local German papers who made fun of him, and it's wild.
But like it's just one of those things where it's like it is like when you do something like a school shooting or not school shooting like a mass shooting, like you have to do that like you have to be like very competent and like you have to be saying something or whatever. And like the Uwe Boll is just not competent. Period. But like also like. I'm not sure what the movie was saying. I mean, it's been years since I saw it because I like turned it off halfway through.
Yeah, but
I don't know what it's saying other than like glorifying the shit.
If memory serves, it's trying to be like I remember
here are the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, well, from what I remember, it's like most of it is trying to say like. Look at how sad this kid is, and this is what our youth is like today, and then it turns to glorifying it in the last like 15 minutes or so. Because I remember that was because I was with it up to that point where I was like, okay, he's competently making a movie of wow, look how sad it is that this kid got pushed this far. But then at the end, it turns into more of like, look how cool this kid is for doing all this shit. And I was like, okay, fuck you.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, do this. Like, it's the same thing. It's the same problem with that, like, 13 Reasons Why show on Netflix. Because
it's fucking like... and then they start off the most recent season with, like, the whole cast coming together being like, hey, if you need help, then reach out to the definitely don't break out your cassette tape and make a bunch of reasons why you killed yourself.
I mean, that show has led to a string of like under 13-year-old suicides.
Yeah.
There was like a 10-year-old girl who stole her mom's phone and Ubered to a parking garage and jumped off. And it's the mom blames that show specifically.
Well, it's so wild that
as you should, because it like really romanticizes that whole concept.
This idea that it's like once I'm gone, everyone will finally pay attention.
Like Netflix is like so irresponsible for making a second. Like that just goes and shows.
Dude, they're irresponsible for making season 4 of Arrested Development. So like,
have you guys seen? Have you seen? Like, have you just seen the first season? Because again, funnily enough, the second season.
I've not seen it. 13 Reasons Why?
No, yeah, the second. I haven't seen it, but if memory serves, I remember reading something where. What's that?
I've never seen a single episode of the show. I just know that like
I watched the first season because it was again just someone I was dating at the time was like, oh man, this is really interesting. You should check this out. And I was like, this is terrible, but I love you, so let's watch this. But when I was reading about the second season, they go on to like tread into that area of like, if I shoot up the school, then people will remember me as well. Funny enough, since we're talking about that, so they just keep on going downhill.
I think Degrassi is what caused all.
And Degrassi should have killed Drake. Actually killed the actor Drake, and then people would have taken that shit serious.
And Drake hopefully wouldn't be out there grooming 13-year-old actresses.
There we go.
Wait, what are we talking about again?
So all this is to say, did you know that Jack and Jill beat out Battlefield Earth for the most Razzies awarded to a single movie?
I was about to say yesterday, because like my girlfriend had seen Jack and Jill and was shocked to hear that I hadn't seen it. And when we ended the movie, and I was like, I actually kind of really liked that. She was like, it's got like all these Razzies.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that's kind of like the thing why I love it.
I have to say, I do like that they awarded both Adam Sandler both Worst Actor and Worst Actress. I like that.
Oh, well, good for him.
That's crowning achievement. He didn't get an Oscar for Uncut Gems, but at least he has that to his name.
Yeah, I mean, damn it. I mean, it's Oscars are lame anyway. That's the best part of Jack and Jill. Is Al Pacino, like, where she breaks his Oscar, and she goes, oh, we must have, like, a bunch of those, and he goes, you'd think I would,
well,
but
obviously I just, before we move on, because I don't know, it's like, these are comedies, so it's like, what more can we really say? Like,
it's really hard. I always get pissed when people are, like, really criticize a comedy, because it's, like, really, the greatest sin in a comedy for me is the Judd Apatow shit, where it like turns into a drama in like the last like 40 minutes to an hour.
This does have a bit of an Apatow lull, but not the way Judd Apatow just kicks you in the fucking balls. Like literally 30 minutes into a Judd Apatow comedy, it's like 8 people have cancer and the world is on fire.
Wake up! It's time to stop smoking weed, you fucking loser.
Yeah, exactly. Like time to grow up.
Raise this child. Raise this child, Pete Davidson.
But I do think that like Jack and Jill, if you can go into it just recognizing that like this is a guy who is as trapped as you can be in a life. Like he cannot get away from making these movies. It's like I'm happy that he's not like every year being like putting out a movie that's like better than Billy Madison or like it's like I'm kind of happy this is his career trajectory. It's like very enjoyable for me, and I think the movies are getting better. That's kind of where
I agree that the movies are getting better again. Like I think it is interesting, but like this was like a lot of people consider this like the beginning of like, or not the beginning of the end, but like one of the reasons that it should end. And then he got the massive Netflix deal, which I think boggled people's minds.
Well,
like,
was this before or after the movie where he has sex with his teacher?
That's My Boy. I think it might be after this.
Okay, I think I would have considered that maybe no more. of this.
That's My Boy is wild.
Well,
and plus it's because it's rated R too.
Yeah.
So it's like Jack and Jill is
one
still
of the
trying to
last
be like,
R-rated comedies.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, they don't make comedies anymore, except for on Netflix or streaming
They don't
services.
really make movies anymore.
But I mean, like, before we move on from this movie, I just want to remind everyone that Don't Mess with the Zohan is out there, and you can go watch that movie, and it's the best Adam Sandler movie you could ever watch. So
it's pretty. Don't Mess with Zohan is actually really funny.
It's fairly unimpeachable. Like it's. I would go to bat for that movie.
Another one I haven't seen, so maybe we can tease that for your third appearance.
Yeah, our third appearance.
Yeah. I just want to say really quickly before we move on, just by pure happenstance, I was watching some Norm Macdonald stand up a few days ago, and I was really happy when he showed up for like 5 minutes in this movie because he's a really underrated guy.
Norm Macdonald little cameo,
where he said something where he's like, "I'm just wondering if I'm having a waking nightmare." Something like that, like made me laugh really hard.
That's why that's what he's just one of those actors where I wish he was a bit more successful in movies, but at the same time I wonder if like that's just what he's meant to do, is just to come in a mediocre movie and say some really funny shit and then leave.
Is he not on the perfect Norm Macdonald trajectory? You know, it's like, is this not the universe getting something right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what was one genuine laugh you had, Jacob?
That was pretty much it. It was the entire time Norm Macdonald was on scene. Every time they cut to him, I was like, okay, that's good. That's really funny.
Feed on children.
And
that was just me. Yeah,
I liked his whole sequence that he had, and what I really wish they had done was at the very end, they drew out the joke way too much, but I did genuinely laugh when Al Pacino's like, burn it. If they had just cut to black right there, that would have been perfect.
You must burn this tape. Yeah.
That was good. Those were my two favorite moments in that.
The Dumb Pacino rap is my new ringtone. I mean,
pretty good. Yeah. Say hello to my chocolate blend. It's really good. Oh, when he's like, "Are you godfathering me?" Like oh yeah.
Oh man. So all that is to say, yeah, Jack and Jill.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Thank you.
If you want to see it and if you didn't watch it before the show and you still have yet to watch it, you can rent it on Amazon Prime for $3.
It is not free.
It's not free on Prime. It's $3 on Prime.
Well, here's the other thing.
It's free with a Hulu subscription.
You can rent it for $4, or you could buy it for $5. So just buy it. Don't bother to skip the rental. It's bullshit. Just buy it.
I actually did just rent it.
I bought it. Yeah. I was like, it's $1 extra. I was like, I am bad with money if I don't buy this movie.
I'm losing money if I don't.
Buy this.
Using
movie.
valuable rewatch time with this movie.
Well, I was gonna say, like, how many times am I gonna rewatch Jack and Jill? About 1 million. So there you go.